Ethan Parker had always prided himself on his ability to read people, a skill honed through years of meticulous craftsmanship. In the small town of Crestwood, New England, where everyone knew everyone and secrets rarely stayed hidden for long, Ethan's intuition was as trusted as his hands. But lately, something about Julia had changed. It started with the late-night phone calls. Julia would slip out of bed, murmuring into her phone with a softness that raised the hairs on the back of Ethan's neck. He told himself it was nothing, perhaps work-related. Julia was a real estate agent, after all, and sometimes clients called at odd hours. But then there were the sudden errands, the unexplained absences, and the growing emotional distance. One evening, as the autumn sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan sat at the kitchen table, his hands wrapped around a mug of lukewarm coffee. Julia had just left for another meeting, her excuse flimsy and unconvincing. Their daughter, Lily, played quietly in the living room, her giggles a temporary balm to Ethan's mounting anxiety. The front door creaked open, and Ethan turned, expecting Julia. Instead, his best friend, Mark, stepped inside, concern etched on his face. "Ethan, we need to talk," Mark said, closing the door behind him. Ethan gestured to the chair opposite him. "What's up?" Mark sat down, his eyes darting around as if unsure where to begin. "I've been hearing things, Ethan, about Julia." Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. "What things?" Mark took a deep breath. "People have seen her around town with Samuel Reed. They're spending a lot of time together, and not just for work." Ethan clenched his jaw. Samuel Reed was a real estate developer, smooth-talking and ambitious. Ethan had never liked him, and now the pieces were falling into place. "What exactly are you saying, Mark?" "I'm saying she's having an affair, Ethan. And it's not just that. They're plotting something. I overheard Samuel at the coffee shop. He mentioned your name, something about getting you out of the picture." The room seemed to spin. Ethan's mind raced, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Lily," he whispered, glancing toward the living room. Mark nodded, understanding immediately. "We'll figure this out, Ethan. You need to be careful." Julia returned home late, her face flushed and eyes bright. Ethan watched her, his emotions a tumultuous storm beneath his composed exterior. "How was the meeting?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Exhausting," Julia replied, dropping her purse on the table. "I'm going to bed." Ethan followed her up the stairs, his thoughts churning. As Julia slipped into bed, Ethan stood in the doorway, his eyes lingering on the woman he had loved for over a decade. He needed answers, but more importantly, he needed to protect Lily. The following morning, Ethan decided to confront Julia. He found her in the kitchen making breakfast. "Julia, we need to talk," he said, his voice firm. Julia turned, a flicker of annoyance crossing her face. "Can it wait? I'm running late." "No, it can't. I know about you and Samuel." The color drained from Julia's face. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Julia. I know you're having an affair, and I know you're trying to ruin me." Julia's eyes hardened. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't I? I've seen the signs, Julia. The lies, the sneaking around." "Why? Why would you do this to us?" Julia took a step forward, her voice a hiss. "Because I'm tired, Ethan. Tired of this small town. Tired of struggling. Samuel can give me a life you never could. And what about Lily? Does she mean nothing to you?" "Of course she does. That's why I need to get her away from you." "You're holding us back, Ethan." "You won't take her from me. I'll fight you with everything I've got." Julia sneered. "Good luck with that. Samuel and I have already spoken to a lawyer. We're going to prove you're an unfit father." Ethan's fists clenched at his sides. "You won't win, Julia. I'll make sure of it." As Ethan walked out of the kitchen, his mind was already racing with plans. He would not let Julia and Samuel destroy his life. He would protect Lily, no matter what it took, and he would make sure that their betrayal did not go unpunished. The days that followed Ethan's confrontation with Julia were a blur of tension and suspicion. Julia's demeanor had shifted from defensive to openly hostile. Ethan could feel the weight of her anger and contempt each time they crossed paths, but he also sensed something else: fear. Her attempts to maintain a semblance of normalcy felt increasingly hollow, and Ethan's unease grew with every passing day. Ethan had begun to delve deeper into the web of deceit surrounding him. Mark, ever the loyal friend, had been helping him gather information. They had spent hours piecing together fragments of Julia's activities and Samuel's connections. Ethan knew he had to act cautiously. The stakes were high, and any misstep could jeopardize his quest for the truth. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Ethan sat at the kitchen table, sifting through documents and notes. Mark was due to arrive shortly to update him on recent developments. Ethan's thoughts were interrupted by a loud knock on the front door. His pulse quickened. He wasn't expecting anyone, and the hour was late. He opened the door to find Jenna, Julia's close friend and colleague, standing there. Her eyes were red and her face was pale. Ethan felt a pang of concern. Jenna had always seemed like a supportive friend to Julia, but now she appeared to be in distress. "Ethan, can I come in?" Jenna's voice trembled slightly. "Of course," Ethan said, stepping aside to let her in. "What's wrong?" Jenna walked into the kitchen, her gaze darting nervously around the room. "I need to talk to you. It's about Julia and Samuel." Ethan's heart raced. "What about them?" Jenna took a deep breath. "I've been covering for Julia. I didn't know the full extent of what was going on, but now I'm worried. She's been hiding things from me too. I think there's more to their plan than just an affair." Ethan leaned forward, his interest piqued. "What are you saying, Jenna?" Jenna looked down at her hands, wringing them anxiously. "I overheard Julia and Samuel talking a few nights ago. They were discussing some sort of legal action against you. Julia mentioned something about preparing the ground for their case. I didn't catch all the details, but it sounded serious." Ethan's mind whirled with possibilities. Legal action? They're trying to build a case against me? Jenna nodded, her eyes wide with fear. "Yes," and Julia seemed confident, like she had a strategy in place. "I didn't want to get involved, but now I feel like I have to help you. I'm sorry for not coming forward sooner." Ethan's gratitude was tempered by a growing sense of dread. "Thank you for telling me. I need to know everything you overheard, anything that could help me defend myself and protect Lily." Jenna hesitated, then nodded. "I'll do my best. I want to help, but please understand, I'm scared too. Julia she's changed. I never thought she'd go this far." As Jenna left, Ethan felt a renewed urgency to take action. He needed to consult a lawyer, gather more evidence, and prepare for the fight ahead. Julia and Samuel's betrayal was deeper and more calculated than he had imagined. The next morning, Ethan met with a local attorney, David Reynolds, known for handling family law cases with a reputation for fairness and thoroughness. Ethan explained the situation, detailing Julia's affair, the suspicious behavior, and Jenna's revelations. David listened intently, his expression growing more serious as Ethan spoke. "So, Julia and Samuel are not only involved in an affair, but also conspiring to damage your reputation and gain an advantage in the custody battle?" David asked, leaning forward. "Yes," Ethan confirmed. "I need to prove that their claims are false and that their actions are driven by personal gain rather than concern for Lily's well-being." David nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "We'll need to gather evidence to counter their claims. We should start by documenting everything. Julia's behavior, any communications between her and Samuel, and the timeline of events. It's crucial to build a strong case to show that their motivations are purely vindictive." Ethan felt a surge of determination. "I'll get everything together. What about Jenna? Can her testimony help us?" "Definitely," David said. "If Jenna can provide credible information and corroborate your story, it will strengthen our case. Make sure she gives a formal statement." Ethan agreed and set to work immediately. He knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with obstacles, but for Lily's sake, he had to see it through. He meticulously documented every detail, from Julia's unexplained absences to Samuel's questionable actions. The tension in the house was palpable. Julia's attempts to play the role of the concerned mother only highlighted the contrast between her public facade and private machinations. Ethan's resolve hardened with each passing day. He could not afford to let his guard down. The secrets and lies that had once seemed like small cracks in the foundation of his life were now gaping chasms threatening to consume everything he held dear. As Ethan prepared for the impending legal battle, he knew that uncovering the full extent of Julia and Samuel's deceit would be crucial to reclaiming his life and ensuring that Lily's future remained secure. Ethan Parker's suspicion that Julia's affair was more than just a personal betrayal had solidified into a conviction. The deeper he delved into the clues and inconsistencies, the more he realized that Julia's affair with Samuel Reed was only the surface of a much darker scheme. With Jenna's cryptic warnings and the strange behavior of Julia, Ethan knew he had to dig deeper. The first step in his investigation was surveillance. Ethan enlisted the help of Mark to set up discreet monitoring. They placed small cameras around the house and tracked Julia's movements using a GPS app on her phone. Ethan meticulously documented everything, from her unexplained absences to the frequent cryptic phone calls. One evening, as Ethan reviewed the footage from the hidden cameras, a pattern began to emerge. Julia's trips were always at odd hours, and her meetings with Samuel seemed to follow a routine. Each time she left, Samuel's black sedan was parked nearby, its tinted windows hiding its occupants. Ethan's anxiety grew with every new piece of evidence he uncovered. One particularly telling piece of footage showed Julia and Samuel meeting at a secluded park. They spoke in hushed tones, and while Ethan couldn't hear their conversation, their body language spoke volumes. Julia's familiar touch, the way Samuel leaned in closely, every gesture seemed to confirm their intimacy. Ethan knew he had to get this information to his lawyer, David Reynolds, but he also needed more concrete evidence. "Mark, we need to get more detailed evidence," Ethan said, his voice tight with determination. "I'm going to look into Julia's phone records and find out more about her interactions with Samuel. We need something indisputable." Mark nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'll see what I can do about tracking their phone conversations. It's risky, but we need to be thorough." The next day, Ethan received a tip from a source at Julia's workplace, a receptionist who had overheard something troubling. According to the source, Julia had been spending a significant amount of time with Dr. Robert Ellison, a local physician known for his charm and discretion. The rumors suggested that Julia's relationship with Dr. Ellison was more than just professional. Ethan decided to investigate further. He visited Dr. Ellison's office under the guise of a patient, seeking a routine checkup. His goal was to gather information on their relationship without raising suspicion. Dr. Ellison greeted Ethan with his usual calm demeanor. "Mr. Parker, what can I do for you today?" Ethan maintained a casual tone. "Just a routine visit, doctor. Thought I'd get a checkup and see if everything's in order." As the appointment proceeded, Ethan engaged Dr. Ellison in casual conversation, steering the topic toward Julia. "I've heard a lot about you lately, doctor. Julia speaks highly of your work." Dr. Ellison's eyes flickered momentarily. "Oh, Julia? She's a lovely person. We've worked together on a few charity events. Very dedicated." Ethan noted the evasive tone but didn't press further during the appointment. After leaving the office, he made a point to observe Dr. Ellison's schedule and interactions with Julia. He began to notice that their meetings often coincided with Julia's unexplained absences. One evening, as Ethan reviewed a stack of documents from the surveillance and phone records, his phone rang. It was Mark, who had managed to obtain crucial information about Julia's and Samuel's communications. "Ethan, I've got something for you," Mark said. "I found evidence of multiple calls and texts between Julia and Dr. Ellison. It looks like they've been in regular contact." Ethan's pulse quickened. "That's exactly what I needed. Does it show anything about their meetings or plans?" Mark hesitated before answering. "There are several messages about private consultations and sensitive matters. It's clear they're in close contact, but we'll need more to connect the dots." Ethan felt a surge of determination. "I'll get this to David. We're on the right track, but we need more concrete proof to build our case." Ethan scheduled a meeting with David Reynolds to present the latest evidence. When he arrived at David's office, he laid out the phone records, surveillance footage, and notes from Dr. Ellison's office visit. David studied the documents carefully, his brow furrowing. "This is substantial, Ethan. We've got evidence of infidelity and collusion. Julia's actions with Samuel and Dr. Ellison are becoming clearer. We need to document every detail and prepare a comprehensive case to counter their claims. Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety. What's our next step? We'll continue to gather evidence and get formal statements from Jenna and any other witnesses who can corroborate your story, David replied. We'll also need to prepare for potential counterclaims. Julia and Samuel will likely try to discredit you, so we need to be ready. As Ethan left the meeting, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but the fight was far from over. Julia's deception was becoming more apparent with each passing day, and Ethan was determined to see it through to the end. The walls of his world were crumbling, but Ethan was resolute. Where there was smoke, there was indeed fire, and he was determined to uncover the full extent of Julia's betrayal and deceit. For Lily's sake, and for his own, Ethan was prepared to face whatever came next in his quest for justice. The fight to clear his name and protect his daughter had consumed Ethan Parker's life, leaving little room for anything else. Each day brought new revelations, mounting evidence, and increasingly heated exchanges with Julia and Samuel. Ethan's determination to expose the truth had become a relentless force, but the cost was starting to weigh heavily on him. Julia, now fully aware of Ethan's relentless pursuit of the truth, had escalated her counter-schemes. She and Samuel were using every trick in their arsenal to discredit Ethan and bolster their position in the custody battle. Their tactics were ruthless, and the emotional toll on Ethan was substantial. One evening, as Ethan reviewed the latest legal documents with David Reynolds, the doorbell rang. David looked up from the papers, his expression thoughtful. That must be Jenna. She's been trying to reach you. Ethan nodded, trying to steady his nerves. Jenna's support had been invaluable, but her presence was becoming more frequent, which made him uneasy about the situation. He opened the door to find Jenna, her face pale and her eyes red. Ethan, I have something important to tell you, Jenna said, stepping inside. Ethan led her to the kitchen, where David was already seated. What's going on, Jenna? Jenna took a deep breath. I've been in touch with a few people who've worked closely with Julia and Samuel. There's something you need to know. Samuel has been using his influence to manipulate legal proceedings and intimidate witnesses. David's eyes narrowed. That's serious. Do you have any concrete evidence? Jenna nodded. I managed to get my hands on some emails and internal documents from Samuel's office. They detail how he's been pressuring people to back up false claims against you. Ethan's heart sank. This is exactly what we feared. We need to get this information to David immediately. David took the documents from Jenna, examining them carefully. This could be the break we needed. We'll use these to challenge their tactics and expose their manipulation. As David worked on integrating the new evidence into their strategy, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Julia, and it was a request to meet. Her message was terse and filled with an undercurrent of desperation. Ethan and David arrived at the meeting location, a quiet cafe on the edge of town. Julia was already there, sitting at a corner table, her face etched with fatigue and anxiety. When she saw Ethan, her composure cracked, revealing the strain she had been under. Ethan, Julia began, her voice trembling. We need to talk. Ethan sat down across from her, his expression guarded. What's this about, Julia? Julia took a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears. I didn't realize how far things had gone. Samuel's involvement has gotten out of control. I thought I could manage it, but now it's all spiraling. Ethan's heart hardened. You've been lying and scheming for months. What makes you think I should believe anything you say now? Julia looked down, her voice breaking. I was wrong, Ethan. I didn't think it would come to this. Samuel manipulated me. I never wanted it to get this far. I just wanted a way out of the mess we were in. Ethan's resolve softened, but only slightly. The damage is done, Julia. You've betrayed me and manipulated the system to your advantage. You've jeopardized our daughter's future. Julia's tears flowed freely now, her shoulders shaking. I know. I'm sorry. I've been so selfish. I don't know how to fix this. Ethan could see the genuine remorse in Julia's eyes, but it was too late for apologies. The damage he had caused was irreversible, and the impact on Lily's life was profound. You need to take responsibility for your actions. It's not just about you anymore. It's about Lily. Julia nodded, her tears continuing to fall. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. Please, just don't let her suffer because of my mistakes. Ethan's heart was conflicted. The anger and betrayal were still fresh, but he could see that Julia was at her breaking point. I'll consider your words, Julia. But know this, I'm fighting for Lily's future. I won't let anyone stand in the way of what's best for her. As they left the cafe, Ethan's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Julia's breakdown had revealed a vulnerability he hadn't expected. It was a harsh reminder of the personal toll this battle was taking on everyone involved. The next day, Ethan received an unexpected phone call from an old acquaintance, Samantha Rivers, a journalist who had covered high-profile cases. Samantha had always been a distant figure in Ethan's life, but she reached out now with an offer of help. Ethan, I heard about what's happening with Julia and Samuel, Samantha said. I have sources and connections that might be able to shed light on their activities. If you're interested, I can help you expose their deceit. Ethan was taken aback. Why are you offering to help now? Samantha's voice was calm and resolute. I believe in justice, Ethan. And from what I've read and heard, it seems like there's a lot more to this story. I want to see the truth come out. With Samantha's unexpected support, Ethan felt a renewed sense of hope. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly falling into place, and the confrontation with Julia and Samuel was moving toward a climactic resolution. The sun was just beginning to set over the small New England town, casting a golden hue across the streets. Ethan Parker had been up for hours, reviewing the final pieces of evidence with Samantha Rivers. The whirlwind of the past few months had led to this moment, a final confrontation and the chance to clear his name once and for all. Samantha's office was cluttered with papers, photographs, and notes. The walls were adorned with news clippings and articles, a testament to her journalistic prowess. Ethan paced back and forth, his nerves jangling with anticipation. Ethan, look at this, Samantha said, pointing to a series of emails on her computer screen. I've managed to corroborate your claims about Samuel's manipulation. These emails between him and a colleague clearly outline their strategy to discredit you and sway the custody battle. Ethan leaned in, studying the documents. So this is it. This proves everything they've been doing behind the scenes. Yes, Samantha replied, and we have the right timing for a public reveal. It's going to hit the news tomorrow morning. Ethan's heart pounded. This is it then. We're finally bringing everything into the light. As they prepared to release the story, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from David Reynolds. Ethan, we just received word that Julia and Samuel are planning a press conference of their own to try and spin the narrative in their favor. They're desperate. Ethan's stomach churned. We need to act fast. We can't let them control the narrative. Samantha nodded. We'll make sure our story is out first. We'll get ahead of them. Later that evening, the town was abuzz with news reports and articles detailing the scandal involving Julia and Samuel. The evidence of their deceit and manipulation was laid bare for all to see. The public revelation was explosive, and the impact was immediate. Julia's press conference the following morning was met with skepticism. The media scrutinized every word, and the weight of the evidence against her and Samuel was undeniable. Julia's attempts to salvage her reputation were futile as the community's support for Ethan grew stronger. Amid the chaos, Ethan received a message from Julia. Can we talk? Ethan agreed to meet at a quiet cafe, the same place where they had their previous conversation. Julia arrived, looking haggard and defeated. Ethan, I'm sorry, Julia began, her voice barely above a whisper. I see now how my actions have hurt everyone. I've lost so much because of this. I just want to make things right for Lily. Ethan's gaze softened slightly, though he remained firm. The damage is significant, Julia. You've caused a lot of harm. But if you genuinely want to make amends, you need to be honest and take responsibility for your actions. Julia nodded, tears streaming down her face. I will. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. I'm truly sorry. As Julia prepared to face the legal and personal fallout, Ethan felt a mixture of relief and sadness. The journey had been arduous, but the truth had prevailed. The support from his friends, family, and the community had been unwavering, and the public scandal had forced the issue into the open. With the legal battle reaching its conclusion, Ethan began to rebuild his life. He focused on his work as a carpenter and spent more quality time with Lily, who had become a central source of strength for him. The process of healing and moving forward was gradual, but Ethan was determined to create a stable and loving environment for his daughter. One evening, as Ethan was finishing up a project in his workshop, he received a call from Samantha. "Ethan, I've been thinking. We've been through a lot together, and I really admire your strength and resilience." Ethan smiled, sensing where the conversation was heading. "I appreciate everything you've done. You've been an incredible support." Samantha hesitated before continuing. "I've realized that through all of this, I've grown to care about you more than I expected. I'd like to see where this could go, if you're open to it." Ethan's heart warmed at her words. "I'd like that. It feels like a new chapter is beginning, and I'm ready to see where it leads." Their new relationship blossomed, providing Ethan with a renewed sense of hope and happiness. The romantic connection with Samantha was a promising new beginning, offering a sense of solace and companionship after the storm of betrayal and deceit. As Ethan looked out over the town that had been both a battleground and a sanctuary, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had faced false accusations, navigated personal and professional conflicts, and emerged stronger. The support from his family, friends, and community had been crucial, and the perfect ending to his journey was within reach. The final resolution came with a sense of peace and accomplishment. Ethan's name was cleared, his relationship with Lily was strengthened, and a new romance with Samantha offered a bright future. The town, once a place of conflict, now felt like a home filled with renewed hope and possibilities. Ethan Parker had not only fought for his truth, but had also found redemption and a new beginning. As he looked forward to the future, he knew that the trials had forged him into a stronger, more resilient person, ready to embrace the next chapter of his life with optimism and love.